So hello, my name is Fernando. I'm here thanks to Eitaro, Fukamatchi, that helped me getting a little bit into Lisp, and especially also other people in the team. Hopefully also thanks to Robert and Veronica, if this presentation is not so boring, because they helped me yesterday to adapt it a little bit. So basically, there are a couple of things that always bothered me about software. Like, for example, many companies that have a strong separation between business and IT. And I see always a language communication. And language, I mean, is quite important because it's not only a tool to express our thoughts, but also is a tool for reasoning. We think in different terms when we think in Lisp, in Java, in English, or other human language. So what happens is that basically each language has some basic elements or types or domains where we can apply certain rules and elaborate certain things. So this is finally, let's say, the functions we can elaborate based on this domain to get some results. So what is the thing, for example, when we are talking about machine code, and this is our domain? The operations we elaborate at this level are very basic, and it's not much what we really do. So then we have assembler, and we needed to wait until the third generation languages to start manipulating variables. However, still, this is not the level in which most organizations try to think. Fourth generation languages were coming with a lot of promises about having some declarative programming, but we are only witnesses similar kind of things today with artificial intelligence and large language models. Nonetheless, we consider it a problem that fourth generation languages fail somehow in their promises to really fulfill, let's say, the expectations. And this is why we are trying to elaborate a domain-specific language, which domain is going to be forms. Okay? Similarly, you can think like SQL is a domain-specific language for tables. Well, FQL is going to be a domain-specific language for forms. And I remember, for example, when I first got into databases in the 80s, that, okay, you don't talk about files anymore, you talk about tables. And I said, well, this is the same dog with a different color. Well, not exactly, because when you talk about tables, it means certain things are warranted, like ACID transactions, foreign key constraints, and all these kind of things. So in the same way, when instead of tables, you talk about forms, there are other things that are also implicit in that concept. Some benefits, for example, is, imagine if you have a model when you have invoices of products from a certain company, cities that are in a certain country. If you can have a data model, for example, like this, assuming it's normalized and you don't have redundancy, when you want to get all the invoices, let's say, from companies in Switzerland, or I'm from Uruguay, so I use it often as an example, you need to write a query like this that is quite verbose and error-prone. Some people can write it, not everyone can read it, and has a lot of verbosity there because all these join conditions are actually already known when you define the model. So in FQL, you simply write something like that because there is something we call path inference. We have our own data dictionary, and we know how to get from the invoices to the condition of the country.name equals Uruguay. So speeding up, another benefit is what we call business consistency. For those familiar with the optimistic locking concept, you know that if a record tries to be updated, but in the meanwhile somebody else updated it, then you will reject this transaction. However, it happens that sometimes you have more than one record being shown in the user interface, okay? And maybe one person modify one of the informations that are being shown in the user interface based on which you make a business decision. And then the modification you made, because this specific record C was not modified by anybody else, optimistic locking will allow it. But from a business point of view, it might introduce some inconsistencies. And inconsistencies can mean a lot of business cost. I know the case of an electricity company that was having meters not assigned to any office. The reading was never done. The billing process was never initiated. They were giving a lot of energy for free to many houses for life. This is basically the architecture. There is a presentation server, an engine that translates all SQL commands into SQL. And this presentation server allows, let's say, a command line interface, a graphical user interface, a custom user interface, artificial intelligence agents, virtual reality, etc. So that's it. That's the URL if you want to have a look. Happy to answer questions, me or Eitaro. And of course, this is built on Lisp, and the extensions are much easier to be done also on Lisp. So we expect the next conference, if this grows, we have many more people here, or where the next one is. Thank you.
Thank you.